Welcome to video lecture section 2.2, exponents and calculator usage. So I'm going to go demonstrate a couple of things with my downloaded TI-84, but also those of you who don't have one or don't want to download it, there's lots of other options. You can use your own calculator in your hand, or we can use Microsoft Excel, which I will switch in between as well. Since everyone will have Excel or numbers on their computer, over here on the right hand side, we can do all of our calculations in Excel and you don't have to have a calculator. But those of you who are comfortable and familiar, I'm using a graphing calculator simply because as I'm typing it in, I can see what I've typed, and if I've accidentally typed something in wrong, I can correct that, where a simple calculator, the scientific ones, you can't see what you've typed in to verify that the answer you got is really correct. So, but you can continue to use your scientific calculator, and I will try and give a couple of tips and suggestions on that as well. So the first 4 questions are similar to Part A, 13 through 15, Part B, 9 through 14, and Part C, 2 through 7. We're just going to get comfortable and familiar with typing in exponents into our calculator and into Excel. So the first one is 6 raised to the 5th power. We can say it's 6 to the 5th, or 6 exponent 5, or 6 to the 5th, lots of different ways, or raised to the 5th power. So I'm going to demonstrate first on my 84. This is a graphing calculator, and I'm going to type in 6, and I can use my mouse on this, or I can type it in using the number pad. The number pad is a little delayed, so just keep that in mind. Sometimes you have to push it and wait just a minute. Now the exponent button on many of your scientific calculators is a y to the x value. So you'll see, let me type it in over here so you can understand what I'm talking about. So I'm going to come over. If you have a button that says y, and I'm going to use my exponent button up here, or my super text, y to the x, you'll see something like that on your calculator. There's lots of different ways. The 84 over here has what a lot of us call the caret button, or the power button. Right here it looks like a, right here. It's the same as doing Shift 6 on your keyboard as well. It's this hat. So what I'm going to do is 6 and raise it to, or caret 5, and that is typed out 6 to the 5th power. Then press enter, and there we go. Now just to hurry and give you a reminder, 6 to the 5th power is the same as saying 6 times 6 times 6 times 6 times 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, all of those. So if you are not comfortable using an exponent button, you can go ahead and do it on these ones, but keep track of how many times you're multiplying it so that you don't get lost. Okay, and a quick demonstration on Microsoft Excel, which will work the same as numbers on a Mac. To make Excel calculate like a calculator, we must type in an equal sign. Anytime you type in an equal sign, it automatically starts calculating for you. And so we just type it in mathematically. I have 6, and I could do this typed out 6 times 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, oh, one too many. I can do it like this, and that would work, but I'm going to type it out using exponents because that's much faster. So I'm going to type in 6 and then press Shift 6 for the caret button to the 5th power, then press enter, and it calculates it for us just like a calculator. So you don't even have to have a calculator if you don't want to. And the nice thing about Excel is, similar to the graphing calculator, up here in our formula bar, we can see exactly what we've typed in, so we can verify that yes, indeed, I typed it in correctly and this is my answer. Similar to this one, I could come up here and make sure by going through and counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Indeed, I did 5 sixes, and that is the correct answer. Okay, let's move on to number 2, 11 to the 7th power. And so what I'm going to do is, since I have Excel already up, I'm going to go ahead and use it as well. And remember, to get it to calculate, you do an equal sign. If you don't, you'll type it in 11, Shift 6 for the caret, and oops, raising it to the 7th power. As soon as you press enter, all it does is keep it for you. It's saying that you've typed it in. It won't calculate. And so some of you might go through that a couple of times and think, what did I do wrong? Why isn't it calculating? Remember to get your equal sign in there. And you can always go back and plug it in. So there we go. We have gonna go over 3 spaces, 19,487,171. And another fun thing about this is if I'm typing it all out, I can copy and then come over here, make sure I get out of my super text for the exponent and press Control V to paste, or right click and paste. And that seems to have paste. Oh, well, we'll just move it down. There we go. And my answer's right there. So lots of different ways that it's really convenient having Excel. Now again, just to demonstrate quickly on the calculator, just to make sure that we're okay with using it. Again, I can use my number pad and just type it with my fingers, 1, 1, and then this one I have to actually press with my mouse, and then raise to the, and I can type it with my finger, 7, and then pressing enter is the same as pressing enter here with your mouse or enter on your number pad. And it's the same thing, so we did it right. Okay, let's try the next one, 6.58. I'm going to type it in, 6.58, just because I have it up on here. Now, what's kind of cool about the 84 plus is over here I have a squared button. X squared is a fast way of giving me the exponent squared, just because it's used so often. Now if I don't want to use that, I can continue to use the caret button and go caret 2. It's the same thing. Pressing enter, it squares it for me, 43.2964, and I can write this over here. Now if I'm typing in all of my answers using your calculator, you actually have to write it all, type it all out. Using Excel, again, we could copy and paste like we did before. So let's just verify in Excel. To get it to calculate, remember to give it an equal sign, 6.58, and this one doesn't have a squared button, so we're going to go raise to the 2. And there we go. Pressing enter will give us our squared. And just being in that cell, going back up to the formula bar, we can indeed verify that we typed it in correctly. So that's nice. And one more just to finish up number 4. Again, calculating, make it an equal sign. 2.2, shift 6 raises to the power of, and then I type in 8. Press enter. And we have 500, and you know what? I'm going to copy this. Oops. Right click, copy, and this is going to do that funny thing again, so that's okay. We'll just get it back up there. Delete, return. There we go. All right. So that was Excel, and coming back in here just to verify 0.2 raised to the 8. So I have to come up here and press the caret button to the 8th power, press enter. There we go, 548.7587354. Mine in Excel seems to have rounded it out only 4. If I want this to go out more, you can do that by going to, I'm going to expand this for just a moment. Here's our expanding or contracting the decimals. So if I want it to be more, I press this one and I go out more. There we go. And so that's one way. I'm going to minimize this again so that you can have more decimals if you would like. All right, so let's go on to number 5, using evaluating using the order of operations. Now I'm going to do this by hand first because I prefer to see it all worked out, especially for you visual learners. Really, really important to see what's going on and that we're actually going through the order of operations. And then I'm going to show you that Excel and your graphing calculator will do the order of operations for you if you type it all in correctly. Scientific calculators won't do this, so you will have to do it by hand. And then you can just do your basic operations using your calculator. I'll bring this up. Okay, so as a quick review, since you've already read the book, and if you haven't, please make sure that you go back and read it so that you understand the order of operations. So the order of operations came to be so that we make sure that everything is done in the correct order. And what I like to do is give myself what's called a mnemonic so that I remember the order of operations as I'm working through a problem. So right here, some people call it PEMDAS, which is parentheses, then exponents, then multiplying and dividing are the same step, but from left to right. Same with adding and subtracting. It's the same step, but you once you get it down to the adding and subtracting, that's all you have left. You go from left to right. All right, now mine that I like to use is called please, excuse, my dear Aunt Sally. And you'll notice I have that broken up. Please, the P, that stands for parentheses. Excuse, the E stands for exponents. My dear, and you have to say that together, is the same step, multiplying and dividing, but you do this step from left to right. So I always put an arrow over top of my dear. And then Aunt Sally stands for adding and subtracting, but this is the same step from left to right. So I make sure I get an arrow over that so that I'm going from left to right. All right, so that's my mnemonic that helps me make sure that I'm going through it. And go ahead and keep saying this silly little phrase, but it'll keep you on track. So if you say, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, and you go back to please, okay, make sure I get all of my parentheses stuff done first. Then excuse, make sure you get all of the exponent stuff. Then my dear from left to right. Don't do any of the adding and subtracting until you finish the my dear, and then Aunt Sally is the very last, adding and subtracting from left to right. So here I don't have to worry on number 5 about parentheses. So I can skip the please and move to excuse, which stands for exponents. And the only exponent here is 2 to the third. So to show my work without having to put you all through my handwriting, I'm just going to paste that in. There we go, and replace this saying that I'm going to do the 2 to the third power. So 2 to the third, I can use my calculator. I can go ahead and do this in my head or Excel. And I like doing this one in my head since it's small. So for my tactile learners, go ahead and use your fingers. And I'm holding up 3 fingers right now in front of my face so that I have 2, 2, and 2 because I have 3 of those together. Then I'm going to point at the first 2. 2 times 2 is 4 and put them down. So I have one more 2 left. So 4 times that 2 gives me 8. Those of you who aren't comfortable doing that, the visual and tactile learners, I think you'll like that. But another way to make sure that you're doing it correctly is 2 raised to the third power using your calculator. Or if you're not comfortable using your exponents yet, you can do 2 times 2 times 2. And the nice thing on the graphing calculator is you can verify that I indeed have 1, 2, 3 of those up there, which is 8. So now I've replaced that. Okay, and I'm going to verify I don't have any more exponents. So I can move on to the next step of my dear, which is multiplying and dividing from left to right. So I'm going to start clear over here on the left, and whatever one I run into first with multiplying and dividing, that's the one I'll go to. So I'm going to scroll over. The first operation is subtraction, so don't touch it yet. Then scrolling over, oh, next is addition, don't touch it. And then division. Okay, so this is going to be, and it looks like the only step for this one, my dear. So I'm going to be doing 6 divided by 3. And again, to show out my steps, I'm going to copy this, Control V to paste it, and get up. There we go. Okay, and so what I'm doing is I'm going to replace this 6 divided by 3 with 2. That one we can easily do in our head, so I'm not going to go ahead and work on the calculator. And then, now that I've completed this step and I've gone all the way through from left to right with the multiplying and dividing, I'm going to move to the next step, which is adding and subtracting, or Aunt Sally, from left to right. Okay, so I'm going to copy this and bring it down to show each of my steps. Okay, so from left to right, I'm going to start over here. The first one I've run into is a subtraction sign. So I need to replace my 9 minus 8, which is 1. And I like to keep these kind of lined up. There we go. So the addition signs are all lined up as well. Okay, so then my next step is just replacing the very last, adding and subtract. Okay, so we have 1 plus 2, and I'm going to say that the answer right in between them will be 3. There we go. So that's the answer of 3. Okay, now like I mentioned before, your graphing calculator, if you want to use one, and also Excel will both go through the order of operations by typing it in. Now, I kind of think it's a little bit of cheating, so I say use this as a checking method. Okay, so I'm going to clear this out and type in 9 minus 2 raised to the third power, or caret 3, plus 6. And this one, the divide sign is right here. So it's the slanted. It doesn't look like the divide sign that we have over here in the Word document. Divided by 3, press enter, and it automatically knows the order of operations and will do it, and the answer is 3. Let's go ahead and try Excel as well, and I'm going to delete this out so it looks nice and clean. Okay, remember I want it to calculate, so I want an equal sign, and then I'll do 9 minus 2 shift 6 to the third power plus 6 divided by 3. And just like I told you with the graphing calculator, this also, Excel also knows the order of operations and will calculate it for you, which is 3. So this is a good, what I would say, checking method until you get comfortable and familiar with doing the order of operations by hand. Because I think it's important that you remember the order of operations. So I'm going to come over here again and work on number 6, but I'm going to keep this above here so that we're all on the same page, so that we remember it's please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, or parentheses, exponents, multiply and divide from left to right, and add and subtract from left to right. So in this one I actually have a set of parentheses, so what I need to do first is the 7 minus 3, and to show my work I'm going to go ahead and copy this down. If you're doing this by hand, you'll just rewrite it. There we go. Okay, so I need to do the first operation inside the parentheses, which is 4. And I also like to keep this all lined up, so there we go. So now the 4 is done, and so I can take these parentheses off because I've already done the operation of 7 minus 3. And now I move to the next step. So check off please, or parentheses, and move to exponents, or excuse, which is here. So I need to do 4 squared, and again I want to show each of my steps as I move through the order of operations. Bring this over here, and I need to do this one. So 4 squared is 4 times 4, which is 16. And I'm going to keep that lined up. There we go. So now I'm going to look through. I got all of the exponents, so I can move through this one to the next one, which is multiplying and dividing from left to right. So I'm going to start over here. I have an addition sign, so I skip over it. It's not in this step. Oh, so the next one is multiplication. And again, I want to show my steps in order. So I'm going to come down here and I want to do 5 times 3. Replacing this, 5 times 3 is 15. And then I move to my last step, which is adding and subtracting. In this case, 15 plus 16 is 31. There we go. So I've worked my way all the way through the order of operations, and now I would like to go ahead and check. So I'm going to come over to Excel, get it to calculate, do an equal sign, and Shift 9 gives you your parenthesis, 7 minus 3 using my number pad, or you could use the number pad above your keyboard. Shift 0 closes the parenthesis, and then I'm going to do Shift 6 for the caret. Sorry, I'll get that out of the way. Raise it to the 2, or the second power. Now plus 5 times 3. If you've typed it in correctly, and I'm going to double check, yep, everything looks good, press enter. There you go. We got 31. And just to verify, we'll bring up the calculator as well. It has parentheses down here, so I'm going to do parentheses, and I'll type in 7 minus 3, close the parentheses, and I could do the caret 2, which squares, or I can use my squared button over here, and then add 5 times 3, enter. Oops, it didn't do the 5 for me. There we go. 5 times 3. Now press enter. And there we go, 31. Okay, let's move on to number 7. Okay, we're going to go ahead and make sure we go through the order of operations again, starting at the beginning, parentheses. And here I have a set of parentheses, and within this set I have 6 squared minus 14. So I have 2 operations in here. Previously we've only had one, which was a subtract sign. So here I have squared and subtract. Within the order of within the parentheses, you actually go back through the order of operations. So within these set of parentheses, do you have another set of parentheses? No, but I do have an exponent right here. So that will be the very first thing I do in my steps. So I'm going to copy and come down here and paste. And replace my 6 squared. 6 squared is 6 times 6, which is 36. There we go. Now I can continue moving through the parentheses. Now notice I didn't take the parentheses off yet. That's because I didn't finish the parentheses. I only did the first operation, which was the squaring. So now I need to subtract. 36 minus 14 gives me 22. And now that I've gone through and done the parentheses, I can take those off now because I finished all of the operations. And there we go. So let's see. Yeah, everything looks good. Let's move to the next step. No, I've done all my parentheses, all of my exponents, so now I'm going to do the multiplying and dividing from left to right. So from left, that's a subtraction, so I don't touch it. There we go. Divide first. So I'm going to copy this, or those of you who are doing it by hand, you just rewrite it. And I need to do 22 divided by 11 first. 22 divided by 11 is 2. Okay, so now my next step is adding and subtracting because I've done all of the multiplying and dividing from left to right. So now I need to add and subtract everything. So here, 15 minus 2 is 13. there we go. And let's verify it on our calculator. Sometimes it takes a couple of times to get it to turn on. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to type it in 15 minus, here's the parenthesis, 6, and I can use my squared button here, or I can use the caret 2, and subtract 14, close the parenthesis, and then divide by 11. Yep, everything looks good. Press enter, and there's the answer. And to verify again, Microsoft Excel will do the order of operations, making sure to calculate like a calculator. You put an equal sign, then type in 15, subtract, parentheses, shift 9, and then 6. This one doesn't have the squared, so I have to do the caret button or shift 6. 6 squared minus 14, close the parenthesis, and then divide by 11. Okay, it looks right, so I'm going to press enter, and there we go. That verified that we did it correctly. Okay, so let's move to the next one. Okay, so for our last example is number 8, and I went ahead and lifted my answer up here. Let's get rid of that. There we go. Okay, so part 8, our 8 is similar to part B, number 15, and C, number 10. So we could go ahead and do this by hand and just write it out for every single one of these, or we can do exponents. So, but we have to figure out the pattern first. So if I place 1 cent on the first board, or the first square of a chessboard, 2 cents on the second square, and then I keep doubling it every square, how much money or how many cents or coins will be on the 15th square? So we could do this by hand. We could say, okay, so the first square has 1, doubling that gives me 2, doubling that gives me 4, doubling that gives me 8. Now some people start seeing the pattern and put a 6 there. That's wrong, remember I'm doubling. Then the next one doubles that, gives me 16, then 32, and I could go ahead and do this. But I'm going to show you a trick with Excel. The really fun thing with Excel is cell referencing. So here I could just go ahead and type these in as I'm doubling them. Or one fun thing is to, I'm going to get rid of this. I could even get rid of this one. And start by doubling using cell references, saying I want to calculate something. I want to multiply or double 2 times the cell above. Okay, so that was nice. However, now that I've done this, I have a formula going. It's going to start doubling whatever is above my cell. So if I come down here and I get my little crosshairs or the plus sign, and in the bottom right hand corner, left click once and drag, it'll keep doubling the cell above as many times as I want. So I'm going to go down. I need to know what's on the 15th one. Oh, I started that at 3, so I'm going to bring it up to the first one. There we go. Oh, and I stopped exactly at 15. So my answer is, yep, 16,384. Now I could do that, or I could figure out how to do this with exponents. I notice here that in square 2, this is really 2 being raised to the first power. Now I don't want that to calculate, I just want to see. And this is the same as 2 being raised to the second power. 4 is 2 times 2, right? Okay, well if 4 is 2 times 2 and I'm doubling, the next one's just going to be multiplying by another 2. So that's 2 times 2 times 2. And if you're not okay with that, go ahead and think 2 times 2 is 4, times another 2 is 8. That means it's 2 being raised to the third power. Do you see the pattern coming up yet? Yeah, what do you think the next one's going to be? 2 being raised to the 4th power. Very good. So now I'm going to start looking at the pattern over here. Notice this says 2, the second line or the second square, and this is a 1. So it's 1 less. This is 5, and that's a 4. Now, why am I pointing that out? Sure, it's an easy pattern. Well, what if I wanted to find this one? It would be very tempting to say 2 to the 9th power, right? Because I'm on square 9. No, this is 1 less than the square I'm on. So this is actually 2 to the 8th power. Okay, so our question said, what is on the 15th square? Okay, so I'm going to take this one and do 2 and raise it to the 1 less than the square I'm on, which is 14. Okay, let's verify it. I'm going to go ahead and stick an equal sign in there to make sure I did it correct. There we go. So now we have 2 different ways of solving the coin on a square, or doubling coins on a chessboard. And you can also do that in your calculator just by doing the 2 times the 2. And you could go ahead and do that, multiplying it out, or 2 to the 14th on there. All right, good luck on your homework.